Alex.
Not slow-mo.
Not slow-mo. Oh, okay, and breathe. Right. I've got 3 questions for you today.
Okay.
But firstly, let's explain to these guys, how do we know each other?
Well, we work at Go On. We met at Go On and we're still here.
And we've been running sales enablement and sales onboarding together since pretty much my day one.
Yeah.
Okay, so Alex is one of the good ones. How long have you been with Go On now?
Just over 2 years now, so a little while.
And you progressed really quickly. So for context, Alex was an SDR. He's now an SDR leader. And the best way to, explain yourself, how you progress so quickly and why you progress so quickly. Let's start there.
Yeah, well, I think came into the business pretty fresh to sales, was lucky enough to be...
Where did you work before?
I worked in retail at Ralph Lauren.
Great, it's free stash there.
Yeah, so closet full of clothes
Yeah.
now, that's all right. I came into Go One fresh to this type of sales, never done it before. Jumped in, had great support from day one, great coaching and mentoring from some really high quality salespeople.
Yeah.
So learned pretty quickly, and then managed to be pretty consistent, perform at a decent level. Had the support of my manager, and was lucky enough to progress into the leadership role after they saw some potential in me there. So.
And I think they saw some good potential. And you have, I would say personally, absolutely smashed it since you moved into leadership.
Thank you.
What are the 3 tips that you would give to other leaders in SDR world of how to manage a team effectively in sales?
In transitioning from?
Transitioning from SDR, yeah.
Okay. Look, it's not easy. I think tip number 1 would be address the elephant in the room. So you've transitioned from being a colleague to a leader.
Yep.
It's a tough transition for sure. It's going from, friendship to friendship with some sort of need for authority. So address that and acknowledge it. I think that's probably tip number 1. I think tip number 2 is try and empathize with them from the level that you've obviously been there before.
Yep.
Use your skills that you've had and try and use that to enable them to be as successful as possible.
Yeah. Walk in their shoes is a big bit, right?
Exactly. And they'll be able to see that. They'll be able to see that you've had that experience. So use that to your advantage.
Yeah.
And then tip number 3 would be always keep their best interests in mind. So understanding that as an SDR or a salesperson, I had my goals and interests, they have theirs. So not pushing any goals and interests on them, but taking theirs in and then using that to motivate them and make them feel heard. So I think that's the 3 key things.
You don't motivate your sales team by your own paycheck?
Funnily enough, that doesn't motivate them that well.
That's a success. Okay, I like that. And what would you say has been your biggest success as a leader?
Biggest success as a leader? That's a tough question. I think the ability to manage through change has been a challenge, but I'm really happy with how I've managed to stick it out through it all. So being able to be here and positive and with a really motivated team through difficult change, that's something to be proud of, I'd say.
And how do you manage difficult change personally?
For myself, I look at change as an opportunity to understand and reset based on business goals. I think it's important to take on board what the ultimate aim is. I like to understand everything down to its core. So I'm not going to jump on the change and be like, this is scary, I don't like it. I'll understand it first. I'll ask plenty of questions. I'm always seeking to understand more, so I'll ask those questions, even if it's a little bit uncomfortable sometimes. I like to know. And then, I'll sort of learn where we're going and understand it, and then I'll jump on board and be able to, give it my full support.
Right. And as a more junior leader into the industry, what are the things and tools that you think you would benefit from a sales enablement perspective that we could hand you to be successful in your role?
Yeah, look, I think there's probably a lot. Being junior to it and not having a lot of experience, I've had to pick up a lot on the job. I think, effective coaching is always key. Giving direction is never going to work. So making it, an effective coaching session where they're understanding or they're, reviewing and reflecting on themselves without you having to just tell them. I think understanding how you do that effectively would be one of the massive things for me. Tools around, how to effectively manage team targets and budgets and how that all works and interacts, and how to do that effectively is another thing. I think, managing through change, as I mentioned, having any experience that you've picked up through interacting with other leaders or leading yourself. yeah, the list goes on, but there's definitely plenty that would be helpful.
That's 3 really big things. And I think, Alex, for 10 years' time, when we replay this video, where do you want to be and where do you see yourself?
Oh, I'm not good with these questions. I'm not good with the where do you see yourself? I was saying the other day, where am I going to be in a couple of years' time? But look, I have always been interested in enablement itself.
Yep.
So
I've tried to steal it a few times.
His
boss nearly killed me.
So look, I think the enablement space is always something that's intrigued me. I think being able to take people to another level and see them succeed in their career is what's most rewarding for me. It's why I got into leadership, and it's why I think enablement is probably something of interest too. Where in enablement? Who knows? But maybe you can...
Sales enablement, yeah,
it's
great. Cool, thanks for all those tips, Alex. Okay, Danny Jeffs.
Hey Lucy.
Introduce yourself.
My name is Danny Jeffs. I am a sales leader for an organisation here in Australia. I look after a segment...
How long have you been a leader for?
I've been a leader for over 2 years now. Started as an account executive on the phones.
Yes.
And transitioned recently into a sales leader role.
And absolutely smashing it. And actually today hit quota.
Yes.
For the end of financial year. So shout out to all of
my
my team and you for closing that off. So well done on that.
Thank you.
Okay, so my reason for bringing you here today is to pass on knowledge to the masses over here and quite simply understand a day in the life of a leader. So my first question to you is, what do you find are your biggest challenges as a leader?
So my team have varied experience when it comes to sales, and my biggest challenge I've found is meeting them where they are, providing relevant information and coaching out in the field. We've got a remote team, so especially with not being able to see them in person, how do I know when they need me if they don't reach out, and how can I best support them with a deal, whether it's a professional or a personal situation that I can jump into and help them sort of unpack.
We had a really good discussion on the way in today, and it was all around that. I said that you very much, what I see of you is you lead with empathy. So that's definitely a challenge. How do you overcome those things that you just spoke about?
I think creating an environment where my team know that they can bring me the good, the bad, and the in-between is really important. Being available to brainstorm possible fixes, whether it be for deals specifically, or maybe they've messed up, maybe they've butchered a process and they've done the wrong thing, and just creating that safe environment so we can really just jump onto it quickly together. There's no shame, just bring me anything and I'm there to help. So I always try and make sure that every conversation that I'm having with the team, I'm leading with kindness, making sure that there truly isn't any judgment, and especially in what we do, anything's fixable. So
we're not doctors and nurses, we're not saving lives, right?
Thankfully we're not, and whatever it is, it's most likely 1 or 2 conversations away from being fixed. So just having really good open communication.
Open communication, I like that. And what has been your biggest win as a sales leader?
My biggest win as a sales leader would be... That's hard.
Doesn't like talking about herself.
I think my biggest win as a sales leader would be when I hear or I see an account executive ace what they're doing.
Yeah.
And that win that comes from within, whether it's they've done a big pitch to a board and they have that buzz after and they walk away going like, wow, I was prepared and I did that. I love seeing them just ace their jobs and be really confident in what they do. And I know that I was there along the journey and helped them build those skills to win, to feel accomplished in what they're doing. So that, I think that feeling is the best feeling. If I could bottle it up and sell it, I would. But being a part of helping them feel that way is a win.
Love
it's
that.
less about the targets and more about just loving what they do.
And that's why you get the longevity and literally hardly any churn within your team time and time and year after year. So totally see that happening. I have a final question for you. So from a sales enablement manager to a sales leader, what do you see that you need from sales enablement, not just within our own business, but externally? What do you think leaders need from enablement to be successful? Long pause.
Yeah, that's the best way to articulate that. You have like an objective view on what we're doing. You can see things that when we're down in the trenches, I can't always see. So I feel like when you're looking strategically at where we're going, you can pick up on signs and cues that maybe, we would miss. Steering the ship and steering what we're doing to be able to get that step closer to utilising tech that we're not. Like Gong.
Yeah.
Shout out to Gong.
Huge shout out to Gong.
I remember you said to me, like, Danny, why aren't you using this tool? Like, this is how you use it, and really building it to be a part of what I do with my team. So whether it's making sure I'm using the tools that will help, or picking up on signs or themes in my team, things that we've forgotten, or even if it's the sales methodology that we're just not using, being on the pulse when it comes to that has been amazing. That's what I've come to you for.
Love that. Thank you very much. Hey Dale, how are you doing?
Pretty good, how are you?
I'm good. Okay, so the reason I've got you on here today is we've spoken to a couple of other leaders and I wanted you to speak around your experience. So first and foremost, how long have you been in sales leadership?
Well, first of all, thanks for the 2-minute heads up. Appreciate that. So how long have I been in leadership? Sales leadership, probably around 28, 30 years. Yeah.
Wow, okay.
Not to show my age or anything, but yeah.
21, that's what I asked you.
Yeah.
So really quickly, what are the 3 biggest challenges that you see for sales leaders in 2023/20, nearly 2024?
Oh, look, I go straight to what I'm, challenged with, and again, I manage the sales development, function. And when it comes to sales development representatives, I guess I feel like we're awesome at hiring, and I think you guys have been great at helping us onboard, but retaining top talent.
Yeah.
So you've constantly got this leaky bucket because we recruit the best, we onboard them, we train them up, and then of course the account executive team and the CSM team, everybody wants them. So we're constantly losing people through promotion, and then having to rehire and start that process again. So that's a big one for me.
Definitely.
Is how do you retain top talent when you don't want to hold them back and you want to see them promoted and move forward, but also you're the one that does all the recruitment, does all the training, puts all the hard work in.
Many hats.
Yeah. So I think that's one. I think another one would be in the absence of a knowledge-based system. We don't have one here.
Yeah.
And so with constantly having new people come in, even the tenured guys, they've got questions all the time, and they don't have an easily accessible tool that they can go on while they're talking to a customer, and maybe put in a competitor and see exactly how we, maybe fare against that competitor, and then actually turn that into a conversation and positioning value.
Otherwise you end up being the knowledge base and your resources time, right?
That's right. So I'm running around, and that's what I've just, was doing in that time, is just running around answering questions, and the same question all the time too.
Yes.
Yeah, which
Definitely.
is, resource training.
That's what we teach sales reps as well, right? You're going to get the same 10 objections time and time again. It's the same thing. So
That's
I
right.
love that. It's a really good insight. And your third one?
Third one. What would be my third one? I think we do really well at this, personally, here, but I think, again, from a sales standpoint, how do you motivate your team? How do you keep them engaged? How do you make sure, that they're turning up happy? I think, you know, a lot of the sales teams now work from home.
Yeah, remote working.
Yeah, remote working, and so they can become very isolated, and so it's keeping them really, you know, feeling part of a team and motivated every day.
I think that's a really big topic, especially since COVID, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, and what would you say is one of the most successful or highlights within your sales leadership career so far?
Whew. That's a big one. Okay, highlights. Highlights. Oh, I don't know.
I mean, you've built teams, you've grown them,
I
they
know.
all laugh well, but like personally, when you look back.
Oh look, it's the things that I enjoy and what makes me happy is, you know, knowing that you have a really engaged team. You know, we've been through a lot this year.
Yeah.
You know, even had to potentially offer people to step back.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, typically, you know, if you hadn't created a really great environment, those people would have left. But instead, you know, I've created a team, I think, and, you know, with the help of obviously some other people, you know, who are really engaged and happy, and, you know, and I seem to be able to recreate that in organisations I work in. I think that's, you know, been key to my success.
You've made it very scalable, definitely.
Yeah.
You have done it time and time again.
Yeah.
Okay, and last questions for you. From a sales enablement manager to a sales leader, what do you think you need from sales enablement as an industry from us to help you and other sales leaders succeed?
I think first and foremost we do need a knowledge-based system.
Yeah.
You know, there needs to, I know we've got the Sales Enablement Hub, and that's been fantastic, but, you know, creating something that they use from the day they walk into the organisation and they're actually onboarded through that. And again, that is, you know, easily searchable, and whilst I'm talking to that prospect, you know, I can find information that I can translate then into a really good, you know, sales conversation and positioning value. I think is key to our success. You know, we've created so many tools.
Yeah.
Now let's put them in a place that's digestible and easily accessible for the team. Yeah.
Love that. Anything else?
Anything else? Oh wow, you've created such, again, you know, for me that's number one, you know, first and foremost, because all the tools are there, you've created them all.
Yeah.
You know, I just don't think they're being, you know, used as well as they could be, based on just, you know, again, the nature of the beast with their role, you know, and being on the phone. It's got to be accessible and they've got to be able to find it faster.
Yeah, love that. Speed to market.
Yeah.
Definitely. Awesome. Thanks, Belle.
No worries.